Welcome back to Boilers and Beyond. I'm Jordan Jones. Today, I am handing off the keys for most of this episode. We're handing it off to the absolute best in the college football preview magazine business. You may have seen him on Twitter. You may be a reader of his. Brett Ciancia from Pick Six Previews joins me here for about a 35-minute conversation talking all things Purdue, a little bit of Big Ten, the state of the sport, but it's a very Purdue-heavy preview. Brett is phenomenal. He is really, really good. As you know, I don't do a ton of guests on this show. Sometimes I wish I did more. Sometimes I'm glad I don't do a ton, because when someone like Brett comes on, it makes it a little more special, because he is really, really good. I think you guys are really going to get a lot out of it. I think you're really going to enjoy it. We're into the month of August. There is football played this month. So I will shut up here and let you guys listen to my conversation with Brett Ciancia. The best in the business of college football preview, Brett Ciancia of Pick Six Previews joins us here today. Brett, congrats on another magazine published. How are you today?
Hey, Jordan, thanks for having me on. Thanks for the praise for the book. Yeah, it's an exciting time of year. It's the best time of year for me at Pick Six Previews. It's magazine season, and got the 2025 edition to the finish line. We're sending out email copies. Hard copies are going out. Just sent another truckload out today. So really exciting time, and I can't wait to kick the season off.
Remind me, Brett, how many years have you been doing this now?
Well, this is the 14th annual preview, but a bunch of those years it was online only, and really started ramping it up with the hard copy about 5 years ago. So I'd say 5 years with the real hard copy magazine that people are familiar with.
Phenomenal. You've been around college football for a while here, observing it at the national level. And I just kind of wanted to start with your impressions of what happened at Purdue the last couple of years, going from a really nice 6-year run under Jeff Brom to where Purdue feels like it is right now after just 2 seasons under Ryan Walters.
Yeah, well, first off, the Jeff Brom era had some great highs for the program. They were able to sneak up and win a Big Ten West title. A lot of winning seasons there, great offenses, great passing attacks, and that kind of sounds like Purdue's formula over the recent generations here. It's been pass first, and that's been their great equalizer. You know, they've used that scheme to their advantage to maybe make up for some recruiting deficits against the big boys like Michigan and Ohio State. So yeah, that was following that formula, and it worked. And unfortunately, Jeff Brom decided to go back to his hometown, his alma mater. You can't fault a guy for that. We always had that on your radar as a potential move for him. So with Brom gone, I was a little bit shocked by the hire, just because it was a younger guy with Ryan Walters, younger in the sense that he hadn't been a head coach before. He did help produce that elite Illinois secondary of 2022, and that secondary sent three guys to the first 2 rounds of the NFL draft. So for pass defense in the secondary, he was excellent. But in terms of a head coach taking on a new era with the NIL and the portal and all the recruiting that comes with that, that was a pretty big stretch of a hire, it looks like. And also to go against the grain, because I think the last 30 years or so of Purdue football had been offensive-minded head coaches. So to switch it up and go with not only a young guy, a first-time head coach, but a defense guy. So it was a little shocking. And I didn't think it would collapse that bad. Like last year has to be the worst season in Purdue history. I mean, that was just not competitive. But I didn't think it would tank that bad. But now it's a fresh start and should be optimistic heading forward.
Purdue went with another defensive head coach here in Barry Odom. Again, you've seen all of Barry Odom's head coaching career since you've been doing this. I wanted to get your thoughts on Purdue hiring Barry Odom out of UNLV here to try to rejuvenate the program.
Yeah, well, I think it's a little bit different than the Walters hire. I know that they're both defensive guys, and that part stays the same. But with Odom, you get an experienced head coach. He took over UNLV and actually pulled off a similar roster overhaul that he's attempting to pull off here at Purdue, where he took over a losing UNLV program and swapped out some 50 players the first year, another 50 the second year, and the wins followed. They went 9-5, played for a Mountain West title. and then did it again. They went 11-3 last year, played for another Mountain West title. So it's a guy that's an experienced head coach. He's done the big rebuild and reload from the transfer portal game. And secondly, what I like about it is while he's defensive based, it is his offensive coordinator hire does bring back that pass happy roots that Purdue has had so much success under. So with Josh Henson, this is a guy that was a right hand man of Lincoln Riley. I know he's an offensive line guy, but still he was around that air raid passing attack and wants to bring some of those features here to Purdue. So it's almost the best of both worlds. You get a return to that passing attack that has been Purdue's calling card, the cradle of quarterbacks. So you return to that style, but then also you get an experienced head coach that has done it before with the big reload. So I think the hire makes sense this time around. I'm a fan of it.
I know oftentimes you talk to coaches leading into the season so you can do your preview magazine, get a better feel for each team. Have you talked to Barry Odom before?
No, I have not got to talk to him. So I do try and talk to as many head coaches and coordinators that will have me. I'll say this about it though. About 3 or 4 years ago, when I started doing the head coach and coordinator interviews, they were a lot more open, a lot more available, and they didn't mind really hyping up their young guys and trying to push for guys for all Big Ten and all America. But I'll say that this last cycle, it really got a bit more private. I don't know why. Maybe they're scared of poaching or of information getting out. You saw a lot of coaches cancel their spring games because they were scared of opposing teams getting intel on their young guys and for future star players. So I wonder if that might have brought some coaches back in to maybe turn down some media opportunities, try and keep it close to the vest. Who knows? But or maybe I just got started late in the cycle this year. So who knows? But I hope to get more coach interviews next year, back to what I was at a couple years ago, where I was getting most of them. So if we talk next time, this time next year, hopefully I will have talked to Odom or even Josh Henson for that matter, the offensive coordinator.
No worries. You're dealing with the most paranoid group of people on earth, being college football coaches. That's for sure. On the offensive side of the ball, what do you envision from Purdue this season? I've read your write up in the magazine. I'm not going to spoil it all. I'll let you kind of dive into that. But tell me a little bit about what you're projecting with some of your metrics for Purdue on the offensive side of the football.
Yeah. Well, what I like to do first is look back. Like, I look at the past before you look at the present and future. And last year, as we know, I mean, it was really a struggle both sides of the ball. Defense and my numbers ranked dead last, and offense wasn't much better there. They were still bottom 10 and power four, checking in at 58th out of 68. So it was a rough season. I don't need to tell Purdue fans that. They watched all 12 games. But looking ahead now, there's a lot of question marks just because so many starters transferred out. And this is a theme on both sides of the ball, but here on offense, we'll start here. The whole offensive line is starting over. All three receivers transferred out and landed on Power Four teams. The only knowns that we have, the only known quantity here is at running back with Devin Mockabee coming back, the face of the offense, really a physical workhorse back, and they're going to rely heavy on him because that's really the only established starter. I guess now we do get Ryan Brown back. He started a couple games last year, really shined against Illinois, almost won that game against an Illinois team that went on to a 10-win season. I think it was 50-49, a shootout game. He put up 400 yards against a great defense. So I'm impressed by that performance. It's a small sample size, but I'm glad to see him return back after spring. It's kind of a weird scenario. It was one of those double transfer moves where a guy leaves in the winter window, goes somewhere else for spring, comes back after spring. So normally I'd wonder if that was a locker room problem, welcoming him back in. But with some 60 new players anyway, it's almost just a wide open roster again. So I think it'll be fine. So long story short, I know two known commodities. I know Ryan Brown at quarterback and Devin Mockabee. The rest of this is going to be wide open for fall camp. The whole starting five up front and all the receiver core. A lot of transfers from Power Four teams, but very inexperienced.
Brett, this is something I didn't really prepare you for, so if you don't have it handy, no problem. I know you have that run push metric for offensive lines, and I have not looked at how that stacks up for Purdue. If you have that handy, Purdue fans are always very skeptical of the offensive line because it's been a position that Purdue has really struggled at. Do your metrics back up with some of those anecdotal observations?
Well, yes and no. If you're going off of last year, I'll give you the numbers here. My offensive line run push, I had Purdue 58th, and that's out of 132 FBS teams. So above average, the middle of the pack, but above average there. And what the O-line run push stat looks at, because of course everyone knows yards per carry. That's the more generic stat, and that's telling too. But what I wanted to hone in on with O-line run push is the yardage that they're creating within 10 yards. You know, what you can credit the line with compared to, say, a running back breaks a couple tackles and goes 80 yards. I don't know that the line earned him all 80 yards. You know what I'm saying? So to really hone in on the offensive lines, their performance on a play, that's what this stat does. So they're actually middle of the pack, and that's one of their best stats. If you're looking at my book, it's out of 30 stat categories. That's actually one of their best last year. It's a lot of red, meaning a bad stat, and this one was a rare yellow, middle of the pack. I'll say though that the pass protection really struggled, and that's the other offensive line stat that I have in here. You got run push and you got pass protection. Uh, Bottom 10 in the country in sack rate, allowing a sack on 10% of pass attempts. So you drop back 10 times, he's getting sacked one of them. Not a good number. So fans are right in that regard, where the pass protection breakdowns were all over the place last year.
That is horrendous, but it lines up with everything we saw last year, losing 6 of the 12 games by 35 or more points. Just an astonishing season. You almost couldn't believe what you were seeing each week. Are there any transfers on the offensive side of the ball, aside from Ryan Brown, that you're particularly interested in or are especially high on?
Well, yeah, I'll look at the three receivers that are coming off of Power Four teams, and like I said at the top there, that they're inexperienced. There's that, but they are coming from Power Four teams. That's a good indicator. Nitro Tuggle from Georgia, Charles Ross USC, and Magwood from UCF. These guys were on Power Four rosters last year. They did come in as three-star transfers, so they're not in that four-star, five-star category, but you have a Power Four background. That's important. And then a couple guys after spring ball that came in that caught my eye along the offensive line. Two from the SEC, with Easley from Georgia and Joyner from Auburn. Again, when you're getting guys from the SEC, especially linemen, that's where they're all stockpiled. So a backup lineman from the SEC, I look at it a little bit differently than a backup from the MAC. You know, so I think those late spring additions were good, were big. And let's see where it shakes out in fall camp in the pecking order on the two deep. They could be impact guys this year.
Do you have any metric that kind of rates transfer portal additions, transfer portal classes year over year, like teams that tend to do better in the portal?
Yeah, so there's a lot of different ways you can look at the transfer portal. The 24/7 and on three, when you do a transfer ranking, a lot of times that's quantity. You know, if a coaching change happens and they sign 30 transfers, you're going to grade pretty well. So I do include those in the book, but I also include just counting the number of four-star and five-star transfers, because that might be a more telling piece. Take Ohio State, for example. Last cycle, they signed five transfers, right? And usually a transfer class of five guys, that's not going to rate very high. And I don't think they were even near the top 20 in the class rankings. But you're looking at those individuals, they were all American caliber and NFLers, with Will Howard, the quarterback, Quinshot Junkins at running back, Caleb Downs, the best defender in the country at safety, a starting lineman. So anyway, what I do is I include both that quantity number that 247 has, but then also the count of four-star and five-star guys. So you'll see on the graph there that Ohio State dominated in terms of quality. So I include both in the book. I also include the 5-year high school recruiting trend. And then also I include this year, the mock NFL draft for 2026. Which teams are stockpiling future pros? I know it sounds funny to already think about a mock draft of next year, but it's still a good indicator. So you can see right next to the transfers in high school recruiting where the team stacks up in mock NFL draft picks.
Guys, this is why we have Brett on. His magazine is the best out there. There are a lot of options, a lot of places you can go to get college football preview content. There is no one who goes more in depth than Brett. My listeners know we don't do a ton of guests on this show, but having Brett on is a must because he is that good at what he does, and some of that analysis is exactly why. On the defensive side of the ball, Brett, any inkling on what Mike Shear and Barry Odom are going to want to do on that side of the ball with virtually an entire blank slate in terms of roster personnel from last season's defense that really, really struggled?
Yep. Well, it's another one of those transfer portal exoduses here. It's 9 starters from last year's team transferred out to Power Four teams. And I know some Purdue fans will chuckle and say maybe that's not the worst thing to have these starters gone, but there's some notable losses, though. I mean, Big Ten Freshman of the Year, Theinman going to Oregon, the safety, Will Helt going to Clemson, and nose tackle going to Texas. So, yeah, there's some big time starters gone. So you're starting from scratch personnel wise. One thing I do like and caught my eye here statistically is this staff that really focus on grabbing the ball, takeaways and turnovers, and that's something that really lacked at Purdue last year. And I had to read this stat twice. That Purdue only had 5 takeaways the whole season last year. It's just unbelievable. So yeah, 5 the entire year. But over the last 2 years, they've generated 50 at UNLV, the staff. So there's going to be an emphasis on that. Also, an emphasis on disruption in the backfield with 67 sacks, 170 tackles for loss the last couple years. They're going to be attacking. So I don't, we could all guess who the starters are going to be right now. It's a lot to be settled in fall camp, but you can understand the style he's going for is going to be an aggressive, takeaways, plays in the backfield. You might get burnt on some plays because of that. You're overcommitting in the pass rush. Might get burnt on a couple explosives, but I think it's going to be boom or bust, and a lot of takeaways coming to Purdue.
I'll pose you this, Brett. You bring up some of the guys who transferred out: Dylan Thieneman, Will Helt, Max Clare on the offensive side of the ball to these power conference programs, and there are several more that I didn't bring up there. I was talking to someone earlier this afternoon from the national side, and they asked me what I make of that. What do you make of so many players from a 1-11 football team winding up at pretty big time destinations for their next stop?
Yeah, that's interesting too, because a lot of these guys were top rated transfers, and you wonder what happened here to turn in such a rough season. Um, it could be a mix of things. Maybe the transfer rankings, when you're looking at rankings, maybe they really value a Power Four starter, regardless of where they were or how that team did. In the individual sense, I mean, it's hard to argue some of these guys. I mean, Max Clare was a great receiving tight end and is going to project really well at Ohio State. So I think he earned that rating. I think he's the number one transfer tight end in the country, according to 24/7. I know he earned a spot on my all transfer team, but yeah. And then on defense, these are guys that were all Big Ten or all Big Ten honorable mention. So to pull that off of a one-win team, I think that's impressive individually. So yeah, interesting dynamic. You had a couple top transfers individually, maybe just stuck on a rough team last year.
Are there any transfers or newcomers on the defensive side of the ball that really stood out to you as you were doing your preview of Purdue?
Yeah, well, I'll focus in on the secondary here. These are guys I've heard of at other places. Tony Grimes, I remember he was a 5-star recruit. He went to UNC originally, and they had some rough defenses there. It was very offensive based as a program. So he actually transferred out to UNLV, now following Odom over back to Purdue. So that's the former 5-star. There aren't many 5-stars out there. So to have one on your team, regardless of his experience level, is pretty cool. That's a headliner. Crew Wackley is a guy from BYU. I do some writing in the fall. I do BYU and Utah previews for KSL.com. And I remember hearing his name. He's had some impact plays over the years for BYU, a really gritty, tough defense the last couple seasons, especially last year. So when I saw him go into Purdue, I thought that was also a headliner. And then I was reading about Sterling Smith, this Holy Cross transfer, kind of a walk-on situation, a scout teamer who has transcended the roster. Now he looks like a star. And the guys over at On Three Purdue, they do an excellent job covering the team. And I remember reading an article that they wrote about him. Where he traded in his number 46 scout team uniform for a single digit number 3. So that's a good indicator. When you're drawing a single digit as a transfer right away, that's a good sign. So those are 3 guys I'm kind of excited to see in a wide open secondary. You're going to have 5 new starters, and I think that could be 3 of them right there as transfers.
Yeah, no one covers Purdue better than Tom Dienhart over at Golden Black, the On Three site. No
That's
doubt.
exactly who I was referencing. Yeah, Tom's
Yeah,
incredible.
yeah, good dude. Tom's a real good dude. In general here, Brett, as you look at Purdue, I know where you picked Purdue in the Big Ten. I'll let you tell the masses here, but talk a little bit about your prognostication here, where you have Purdue, why you have Purdue there, and maybe what Purdue can do to outkick the coverage on your expectations a little bit.
Yeah, well, we all saw how Purdue looked last year, and that's always the starting point. So it's going to be a total rebuild, a total reset. So if you're in the preview magazine business, you don't want question marks when you're putting a team together and trying to predict where they're going to go. And I hate to say, but this roster is just completely filled with question marks, and that's normal for a transition season, especially one of this magnitude. So I think the expectations just have to be, play competent football, avoid the blowout losses, steal a couple Big Ten wins, maybe chase down bowl season. But I think set the expectation that this is a growth season to really focus in on 2026 and see how these gains pay off. I'm looking at a year two boost next year, but so I do have them projected at the bottom of the conference again. But I'm really looking forward to a 2026 bounce back. Now, schedule-wise, if I need to put the Kool-Aid glasses on, the optimistic glasses here, you can see a 2-0 start. I think they'll beat Ball State. I think they'll win the FCS game against Southern Illinois. A couple tough ones there, USC and Notre Dame. That's 2 losses. But this October, if Purdue is going to break through and surprise and maybe even chase a bowl, they need to take care of business and win some of these October games. They're winnable. They're possible wins. You're talking about Rutgers coming in to West Lafayette there on the 25th. That's a very winnable game, a toss-up, in my opinion. Road trip to Northwestern, again, a toss-up. I've got Northwestern 16th in the 18-team Big Ten, so kind of a peer of Purdue right now. And then 2 maybe stretch games with Minnesota on the road and Illinois. And a lot of pundits out there have Illinois in their top 10, and they're talking playoff. I don't buy it at all. You can see this in the magazine. I've got them down at 35th heading into the season. I was not impressed statistically with them last year. So I think that, hey, it was a winnable game last year, 50-49. I'll call it winnable this year. It's potential. So it's going to come down to that October. And, do I see them cleaning that, sweeping that slate 4-0? I don't think so. But if it's going to happen, it's going to have to be the October games because November looks really, really tough.
In the Big Ten, you're a little bit lower on Illinois, really to put it mildly, compared to some of the other experts out there and their prognostications. Who are you a little higher on, and is there anyone else that you're a little lower on in the Big Ten?
Higher on, I'll give you a couple. USC really stood out to me, and if you just look at their record last year, that you wouldn't be impressed. It was 7-5, but when you dig in a little bit more, 5 of those losses, all 5 are by 1 score, and they had late leads in a lot of them. So I mean, they were close. I know close doesn't count, but if you're looking forward to project the next season, that does weigh in a little bit. And statistically, they had the profile of a top 20 team. And they were one of the biggest spenders in the country in the NIL transfer game this year. You know how expensive it is to pull in some of these transfers, but they really rallied the money and put together a great transfer class. So I see them now in a second year with their coordinator, second year with their quarterback. I think they're going to move up to 4th in the conference and be there with 9 wins. They're number 7.5, and that's one of my best bets of the season, win total wise, for them to go over the 7.5. I see at least 9. So I like USC as a team that's underrated. Another one, Washington, and not many people talking about this team. What I like is it's the second year for Jed Fish, and he's a proven builder. He's done it at Arizona. In fact, he took a lot of Arizona's great players with him. Now they're all settling in a second season at Washington. He found his quarterback with the dual threat Williams there late in the season, 1,000-yard back with Coleman. And I know they do replace some coordinators, but I think that they should be a middle to upper tier team in the Big Ten this year.
On the win total front, Brett, gun to head, do you have a play on Purdue's win total set at 3.5?
Oof. Well, that's tough. I do think 2-0 start, like we talked about. From there, I don't know that they get 2 more if I'm really going to put a bet on it. I see a lot of stretch games. I mean, Rutgers and Northwestern, to get to that Vegas 3.5, you got to win both of those. You got to beat Rutgers at home. You got to go at Northwestern and win. If not, then you're going to be really trying to punch up and steal a W. So here we are in late July. I'll go under 3.5, but that's a fair number. I think. I don't think it's too drastic either way.
I can hear the listeners now throwing tomatoes at you through their windshields as they're on their commute to work. I'm kidding there. Brett, with so much changing in the national landscape, with the Big Ten at 18 teams, the college football playoff is really the only postseason event that's important now. The value upon making a bowl game has never been lower. What is the path for a program like Purdue to becoming relevant and for fans to feel happy about where the program is in today's landscape?
Yeah, well, that's a great point, a great question here. It goes beyond just wins and losses. I think you want to create a fun environment. That might sound cheesy, but you want that student body showing up and getting engaged with the game and selling out the stadium, providing a tough place to play for opponents. It just creates a buzz on campus. And the reason I say that, it's got to start there with passion, is because that ends up signing more recruits. That gets transfers that are looking elsewhere. They want to go play somewhere like that. High school recruits, when they're on their official visits, they want to play somewhere like that. So that's part of it. I think schemes that are fun to watch and that are successful, that's part of it. I mean, look what Jeff Brom was able to do here and is doing at Louisville. And I bring him up again because specifically you hear transfer quarterbacks say they want to play in Jeff Brom's system, get developed by him. So look at schemes that are exciting and are productive. So that's where I would start. The wins will follow. It's all process based. You got to create create the program you want, and then the wins will follow. If you need a specific example, I hate to say this on a Purdue show, you're going to lose some listeners here, but look at what Indiana just did last year. And, they got a coach in there. He brought most of his team from James Madison with him, and I doubted it. I think everyone in the country doubted it, but they played really excellent football last year, very sound football, and really put their school on the map football wise. And I will say part of that is booster NIL related too. They finally got a financial commitment. So, kind of my long-winded answer for a philosophical question here is it's a mix of booster support, NIL support, fan passion, getting the student body involved, and then of course on the coaching front, schemes that work and good recruiters. You got to have kind of everything. So that's why it feels like I'm listing things out, but that's the recipe to get something going.
It wouldn't be a philosophical question if we didn't have a little bit longer of an answer. And I've got one more for you here, Brett. You're someone who makes a living in the college football space. You follow it as closely as anyone. What are some of your thoughts about the current landscape that exists, some of the changes that have happened in the sport in recent years, and where the sport is headed here in the immediate and long-term future?
Yeah, well, I think it's important to note that I didn't come up through the media ranks. I'm not an official journalist, or I didn't go to school for it. I come at this from full passion for college football. I mean, that's all I did in the fall growing up. We had our TVs, our four TVs for 12 hours, watching every game we could watch, reading every article we could read, me and my dad. So it comes from a passion project that then it built into a business. So I say that because I come at it differently. I'm not viewing this as a TV executive looking at TV Nielsen reports or for page views on a mega website or a corporation. I want what's best for the actual sport itself. The actual game on the field, the players, the coaches, the fans. So my answer would be different than what is currently happening. What's currently happening is benefiting the mega corporations and the TV deals, and that's why you're seeing playoff expansion to a fault. And that's why you're seeing mega conferences and old rivalries be ripped up and the Pac-12 eradicated and these guys sent all over the country. So that's all to benefit the TV. It's a shame. So my answer is always different because I don't come from that world and I'm not of that world. So I'd much rather have the Pac-12 or even the Pac-10 back. I'd rather have the Big East. I'd rather have all the bowl games still with all their value. But it's just not how it works. Money drives everything, and right now it's a hyper money situation going on.
You and me both. It's not the sport that we grew up on. It's not the landscape we grew up on, and it takes some getting used to. I wanted to close out one question I had a listener submit to ask you. He said, out of all the Power Four teams, who does Brett think he is highest and lowest on compared to the national consensus?
Well, great question. I saw that on Twitter too. I appreciate it. For the lowest expectations compared to where the rest of the country has them, I touched on it. It's Illinois, and I respect Coach Bielema. I think he's a great coach, and I think did a great job grinding 10 wins out of that roster last year. But you look back at it, it was a lot of close games, even I almost want to say fluky wins. And so that's one piece. You look at my advanced stats in the book and my game grader, all my formulas, because that's part of it. They did not look like a 10-win team at all. They looked like middle of the pack or even below average. So all that to say, I know they bring back a lot of starters, but I think they've already hit their peak as a roster. So I'm selling them big time. I've got them more as a 7-5 type team. So I'm not buying the dark horse playoff talk. So that's the sell category. For the buy category, I like TCU a lot, and this is a team that you won't find on many people's top 25 boards. I've got them ranked. I've got them contending for a Big 12 title. I got to talk to Coach Dykes, and he's really high on his receiver core. I love Josh Hoover. He's one of the more underrated quarterbacks in the country. And another note with TCU, because we're always so used to thinking of the Big 12 having the big mega brands of Texas and Oklahoma as your recruiters. But now that they've moved on, you take them out of the picture. It's actually TCU as your top recruiter in the Big 12 the last 5 years. So they have the most talent in the league, along with Texas Tech, who just went crazy in the transfer portal. So I'd really like TCU to cover their 6.5 spread of wins, and then maybe to even push for the Big 12.
The Big 12 is a fascinating league. The separation between top and bottom in that league is so small. Every Saturday, you have no idea what you're going to get in that league.
Yeah, absolutely. And case in point is at the Big 12 Media Days this year, they had the coaches do a poll, and the coaches selected Kansas State versus Iowa State to play in the conference title game. Neither of those two are even in my top five. That's how deep this conference is. You could argue 8, 9, 10 different teams to win it. You could give an elevator pitch for all of these teams. So I ultimately went with Arizona State. They're the veteran team. They won it last year, and statistically, it wasn't a fluke. They were very strong last year. So I have them winning it over Texas Tech, the transfer portal team of the year. Look at Baylor, TCU, even Utah, Kansas State as potential contenders. But yeah, if you like packed stadiums, a lot of stadium atmosphere, look at this Big 12. The fans care. I might not get the TV deals, but they love it out there.
Absolutely. Brett, is there anything about this year's Purdue team, about the Purdue program, on your mind that we didn't touch on already?
No, I think we did a pretty nice job covering it, offense and defense wise. I mean, from the 30,000-foot view, I just think it's a really big rebuilding project happening. And this is a guy that's done it before. So you have that track record behind him. I like the coordinator hires. And yeah, let's just see how it looks. There's a lot of starting spots up for grabs in fall camp. They're going to look a lot different end of August than they are here at the start of August. So yeah, we'll keep an eye on Purdue. I'm excited to see it. I don't think the last era was going to go anywhere. So I think it was good to start over here, and we'll see. I mean, I'd like for them to surprise in that October. That's where I'm going to be looking most at Purdue, how they perform in those 4 October games, and really start to look towards 2026 as maybe the breakthrough.
Fantastic. Brett, I greatly appreciate your time. Tell everybody about your magazine, where they can get it, and all of the details about Pick Six previews.
Yeah, thanks, Jordan, and thanks for all the praise for the book and my work. I do appreciate it. We got connected through the Bill King show. It's my favorite show I go on. I love it. It's a great listenership, and he's such a radio icon. So it's great we got connected that way. If you're interested in checking out the magazine, you want to go to pick6previews.com. That's the only place to find it. That's Pick Six Previews, all spelled out. Also on Twitter, Pick Six Previews. And on there, you'll see some sample teams. We got testimonials there. We have the digital copy available, a hard copy magazine that ships out. That's available. If you buy the hard copy, you also get the digital too. So for those 2 or 3 days where it's at the post office and being shipped your way, you have instant access to the digital magazine. So we got that. And then real quick, lastly, we do have an in-season product this time around called Pick Six Plus. It's all the data, all the information you love from my book, but now weekly, updated every Tuesday and sent to your inbox with all the game projections coming up, all the picks, all the advanced stats, everything you'd want to see for every team. So that's on there too, Pick Six Plus. Go give that a look. But yeah, thanks, Jordan, and best of luck, Purdue. Hopefully you prove me wrong and break through and have a surprise season. But I'm really excited to see them grow as a program and look toward 2026.
Time will tell. We shall see. Brett, thanks again. And everyone, get the magazine. You won't regret it. I promise you on that one. Thanks, Brett.
Thanks.
Thanks again to Brett for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate his generosity with his time. I hope you guys got a lot out of that interview. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I know I had a lot of fun talking to him. And seriously, buy the magazine. You will not regret it. I was reading through it earlier today, diving into it in deep detail because it's time to get the cram studying in. The season starts this month. That's all I've got for today's episode, though. Next week, we're going to continue the Countdown to Kickoff series. We're going to do a deep dive into Purdue's schedule, talk about all 12 opponents, talk about some schedule factors, some fun tidbits and all of that. Ultimately looking at how many games Purdue can win this fall. We've got episodes every week from now until the end of basketball season and beyond. Be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Be sure to follow the show on Twitter at BoilersBeyond. Send me some questions as well. Do it on Twitter, or you can email the show, boilersandbeyondpod@gmail.com. Until next time, guys, take care.